Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we bring you a major breaking story from Eastern Europe. The city of Minsk, capital of Belarus, has turned into a ground of chaos and confrontation as thousands of protesters flood the streets demanding the resignation of longtime President Alexander Lukashenko. The atmosphere across the city is tense, with police and protesters facing off in some of the biggest demonstrations the country has seen in years. Early this morning, large crowds gathered near Independence Square, chanting slogans like "Freedom for Belarus" and "Lukashenko must go." Protesters waved the historic white, red, white flags, a symbol of resistance and hope. Within hours, clashes erupted as riot police moved in using stun grenades, tear gas, and rubber bullets to disperse the demonstrators. Videos on social media showed thick clouds of smoke covering the streets, sirens echoing across Minsk, and people running for shelter as security forces advanced. Eyewitnesses described the situation as one of pure chaos. Streets that were calm hours earlier have turned into battlegrounds. Protesters are building barricades while police are surrounding entire blocks. Internet access in several parts of the city has been restricted, and many independent media outlets have been forced offline. The authorities confirmed hundreds of arrests, but opposition groups claim the number is much higher. Detainees include not only protesters but also journalists and human rights observers who were covering the unrest. Medical teams report dozens of injuries, some caused by rubber bullets and tear gas canisters fired at close range. This wave of protest did not come out of nowhere. It is the result of decades of frustration under the leadership of Alexander Lukashenko, who has ruled Belarus since 1994. Often referred to as Europe's last dictator, Lukashenko has maintained power through controversial elections, tight control of the media, and a vast security network. In 2020, after a widely disputed presidential election, the country saw one of the largest uprisings in its history. Those demonstrations were crushed brutally, and thousands were imprisoned or forced into exile. But the anger never went away. Over the years, economic hardship, corruption, and political repression have continued to fuel resentment. In recent months, inflation has hit record levels, jobs have become scarce, and the gap between the government and the people has widened. Citizens are growing tired of the endless promises of stability while their living standards fall. The younger generation in particular is demanding freedom, fair elections, and an end to police violence. Many protesters say they are not afraid anymore. They want to live in a country where they can speak freely and choose their leaders. One young man told local media, "We are here because our parents were silent. We will not be." Lukashenko, however, shows no sign of stepping back. In a televised address, he accused Western nations of supporting the protests and trying to destabilize Belarus. He warned that any attempt to overthrow the government would be met with force. Surrounded by military officers, he declared that Belarus will not fall under foreign influence. But critics argue that this is the same excuse he has used for years to silence his own people. International reaction has been swift. The European Union and the United States have condemned the violent crackdown and called for dialogue. Human rights organizations are demanding the immediate release of all detainees. The United Nations has expressed concern over reports of excessive force and internet blackouts. Russia, on the other hand, has voiced support for Lukashenko, blaming Western interference for the unrest. Moscow remains Belarus's closest ally, providing both political and economic support, and analysts believe Lukashenko's survival may depend on that relationship. Meanwhile, opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, living in exile, praised the courage of the protesters. In a video message shared online, she said that the people of Belarus have once again shown that they deserve freedom. She urged the international community to stand with those risking their lives in Minsk and other cities. Her message spread quickly, boosting morale among the demonstrators. Across the capital, scenes of defiance continue to emerge. Groups of citizens are standing together, waving flags and singing songs of unity. Many carry pictures of those who were imprisoned or killed in past protests. Makeshift medical tents have been set up to treat the injured. Volunteers are using encrypted messaging apps to coordinate and share real-time information. The movement is growing despite the government's attempts to silence it. Observers say this could be the most serious challenge to Lukashenko's power in more than a decade. The protests are larger, more organized, and driven by widespread frustration over living conditions. Experts believe that even if the government suppresses this wave of unrest, the demand for change will not disappear. The anger runs too deep. Economically, the country is under pressure. Sanctions, isolation, and reduced trade have damaged Belarus's already fragile economy. The local currency is falling, food prices are rising, and unemployment is spreading. These issues are now feeding the political fire. On the streets of Minsk, people are tired but determined. Many of them know the risks: arrest, torture, or worse, but they say there is no other option. "We have nothing left to lose," said a protester holding a candle near the main square. "If we stay silent, nothing will ever change." Such words capture the spirit of resistance that is sweeping across the country. As night falls, the city remains on edge. Riot police continue to patrol. Armored vehicles are stationed near government buildings, and checkpoints have been set up on major roads. Loudspeakers warn people to return home, but the crowds persist. Small groups keep reappearing, shouting for freedom. In many neighborhoods, residents flash their lights from windows or honk car horns in support of the movement. It has become not just a protest, but a symbol of hope for millions. Political analysts say Lukashenko faces a critical test. If the unrest continues, his government could face internal fractures. Some members of the security forces may begin to question their loyalty, while others may seek negotiations. The situation is fluid and unpredictable. Many Belarusians believe that international pressure combined with persistent internal protests could eventually bring about change. But for now, the government remains firm and defiant. The world is watching closely. Leaders across Europe are urging restraint and calling for dialogue, but few believe Lukashenko will agree to real reform. The fear is that the violence could escalate further, leading to bloodshed. The international community faces a difficult question: how to support the Belarusian people without triggering even harsher repression from the government or deeper involvement from Russia. For the ordinary citizens of Belarus, the struggle continues day by day. Every march, every chant, and every banner carries a message of courage. Despite arrests, threats, and censorship, they continue to fight for their right to choose their own future. The courage of the Belarusian people has become an inspiration for many across the world who still believe in democracy and human rights. As this story develops, one thing is clear: the spirit of the Belarusian people cannot be easily crushed. No matter how powerful the government or how strong the police, the desire for freedom is stronger. The protests in Minsk are not just about politics, they are about dignity, justice, and the hope for a better tomorrow. The outcome remains uncertain, but the message from the streets is unmistakable. Change is coming, and the people will not back down.